Welcome to a special episode of In the Studio. My name is Marlene Weisman. We're here in my Brooklyn studio. This is a special takeover edition of In the Studio in conjunction with Club 57. Club 57 was a club that was located on St. Mark's Place, downtown in New York City. It was more than just a downtown club that showcased bands. It was really a hotbed of creativity and art. In that era, I was a graphic designer for a lot of the downtown clubs. I did a lot of work for the Peppermint Lounge, Danceteria, Tramps, and The Bottom Line. I do the newspaper ads and street posters and flyers. Doing graphics then was a very tactile and physical thing. We would have to make an actual physical mechanical, and we use Xeroxes all through doing graphics. I have a little notebook here. This is what I look like going to the clubs. But talking about black and white Xerox aesthetic, I have some samples of band flyers because I kept a few of these too. And bands really wanted to have that Xeroxy anti-art quality to them. It was a mixture of things. It was a DIY, do-it-yourself aesthetic. People didn't want to be perceived as sellouts or too fancy. They just wanted bare bones flyers, and as you can see in this flyer, there's a lot of little elements that were pasted in and a lot of hand lettering. So while I was doing that kind of graphic design, I got the idea that maybe the Xerox machine would be a great source of doing art. I happened to see a flyer for a show at Club 57 that Keith Haring put together, and I saw this and got really excited because that's exactly what I was doing. I brought 3 pieces down and he looked at them and he said, "These are great, put them up." Thus begun my association with Club 57. A lot of memories from that time, a lot of not memories, but it was great to be part of New York City in that era. So what is Xerox art? Well, you can simply Xerox something, cut it up, paste it into a collage, and then say you're finished. But what I'm going to do is take it a step further and show the technique of taking a reproduced piece out of a Xerox machine, placing it on a piece of paper, and transferring the ink off to make a whole new piece of art on a different piece of paper. And the possibilities are endless. I have a narrative piece that I call a memoir type piece. I have a collage piece that I've coupled the Xerox transfers with pieces of painting that I've done. I also did a Warholian piece, so a piece in the style of what Andy would have done with repeated images. So with this technique, you can choose cold press and hot press paper. There's benefits to each one when doing Xerox transfers. A hot press sometimes will work better with a transfer because there's less tooth to it. It's so smooth a surface to receive the toner. So let's talk about the solvent part of a Xerox transfer. In the 80s, I used acetone, which is not the safest chemical to use. You have to be a little careful. There are now things that you can use as well. Golden gel or matte mediums work. Gesso works. You could even use packing tape that are a lot less toxic. You can always get a more familiar product, which is nail polish remover. This will work as well. Again, safe handling is really important. I would only use a little bit at a time, pouring it into a metal cup or a glass cup. So another element of Xerox transfer art, of course, is the Xeroxes themselves. I have a big folder of images that I organized. When I make the images, I do them in a few different sizes because there's nothing worse than getting back to your studio and saying, "Oh, I wish I had that 50% smaller." You have to, of course, make sure that you're using a Xerox machine that is toner-based, not laser, toner-based, because that's the chemical, I think it's a powder, that will come off and onto your substrate, onto your paper. Some final supplies that are good to have on hand for doing Xerox transfer art is tape, good artist tape, so gentle on the paper. You'll need a burnisher. I have the burnisher I actually used back in the Club 57 days. Maybe it's my lucky burnisher, but more readily available is something called a bone folder. Then these can Be bought at any art supply store. You'll need a kitchen sponge, plain kitchen sponge, which I'll show in the demonstration. We're going to cut into strips. So having some scissors handy is really good. And the other thing I would recommend are to have pencils and other media to draw and paint into the compositions when you're done with them. So enough talking here. Let's make an art piece. There we go. I'm going to take a piece of Xerox here. I think I will cut out the piece I'm going to transfer. I'm doing that because I think it will avoid getting unwanted Xerox transfer onto there, because I don't want this piece, but I want this piece. And I'm leaving a lot of white space around what I'm cutting because we need some room to tape around the sides. So here's one element. I think I'm going to place that down for now. Okay. So I think I have a nice amount of images. Now we have our elements, and I'm going to move them around a little bit. And again, remember, when you're transferring, everything is the opposite direction. So what I'm doing is now looking through the back of the paper, and now I have a little bit of an idea of what I want to do. I think I'm going to start with the bottom image. So I'm going to put these aside, and I'm going to make a little flap with the tape and securely tape it down. This way, if I want to go over an area of the transfer, I can do that. The next thing you're going to do is take your acetone. I'll use the polish remover in this case. You don't need that much, just a little bit. And I'm also going to cut a piece of sponge. Dab a little bit on the sponge. Get it wet a little bit. And then go over your area. And you can see the image through the back. And then really quickly start burnishing. I don't know if this is working, but we'll find out. I have a good feeling that it is transferring. So I'll do another section at a time. And I'm holding down the paper really tightly. So there's very little gapping between the Xerox and the paper. Now this may be a little too much, we'll see, acetone, because the sponge kind of fell in there, which you should kind of leave it out of the little cup. But a good sign is when you start seeing the transfer getting light on the back, you know that maybe something's going on, that you are getting the effect you want. So I'm going to take a little peek. It looks good. Okay, but I'm not going to lift it up yet. So I'm going to keep going courageously, very quickly, because I don't want the acetone to just spread and blur the image. All right, so let's see what we get. The big reveal in a minute. So, see, now I see a little part I missed, so I didn't lift it up fully yet. So I'm going to do that again. Sometimes missing part of an image makes it more interesting. So again, in all great art, accidents are a really fun part. So let's see. Pretty good. So that is how you do a transfer. And again, it really transformed the image from which was a Xerox of a Dover book of an old engraving, but it really put a lot of depth into the image. I want to fill out this other area with this other mysterious piece of machinery. I think this is a printing press. I'm not really sure what this is, some kind of piston engine. I'm going to fill in the space here. And in this case, I'm off the edge, so that's okay. You should have proper ventilation. I have a fan going usually because these fumes get a little overwhelming after a while. But it's no worse than taking off your nail polish. And as you can see the back emerging, it really gives you a good guide. It doesn't matter what direction you burnish in. It could be any direction, really. Okay, let's see if I, oh, there. So there we go. Now I have my unusual machine, which I can draw and paint into. I can choose to connect these. Let's see what happens. Okay. Did we get a transfer? Carefully take off the tape because you don't want to rip the paper. And not bad. We lost a little over here, but that's an easy drawer into. And we have a scissor-wielding angel for everyone to enjoy. Okay, well, let's see. And we got a nice transfer. And because I cut that away, it kind of, works with the composition. I like to have the images be different sizes because then you get a kind of a feeling of a flow, which is fun. So I generally know where I'm going to put these, and it also brings your eye down into the machine. I think maybe it will be interesting to make one of these clocks kind of coming off from the edge of the page. Wow, okay, looking good. I'm just going to take this little guy down here. And there we go. Okay. I think that what I'd like to do is see if I could connect these two elements to make them a full whimsical, mysterious machine. How I like to do that is to use Prismacolor pencils and also waterproof felt tip pens that the cartoonists use or illustrators use. So pretty much I'm just extending the lines to kind of connect these two. Maybe I'll go back in with this pencil now. And again, another thing you can work on for hours and you could just keep going. So I think I finished playing with this a little bit. I can go in more, but for demonstration sakes, maybe we'll go on to some color. I have my Dr. Martens inks. I haven't used these in a long time. And you'll see how dense these are. You could just take a teeny, and that's already so dense. That was just a teeny little dab. If I lighten it. Sometimes I even use a little piece of board to mix my color. A little yellow. See what we get. But as you can see, I'm using very small quantities of these. They go a long way. So I added a little, a nice little gradient effect, gives a little interest. The beauty of using these watercolors is that the tones show through. And you can keep building. If you thought you went too light and you wanted more color, you can just go over it. And it's just great how the transfers hold up to water media. And this hot press mixed media paper is holding up pretty well too. It's not buckling at all. So the machine's looking good. I like the color in there. And I think that to complete the piece, I think it would make sense to bring some color up. So the obvious place is to add some color to the clocks, to the stopwatches. If you want to tone down a color, I've done this in many of my pieces. I could just go over it again with a Prismacolor pencil. Just checking if it's dry. Okay, so we finished the gears and we finished the watches and added our color. And I think there's one more spot that color could be put in to complete the piece. Okay, so I think this is an interesting place to stop. I think if I kept going, I would maybe define the wing a little more, work with my pencils again, like I had shown on connecting the machine. I think that maybe I regret the color. I think maybe this worked, had more punch as a black and white piece. But I think that it was good for demonstration purposes to show how you can add color and how the translucent vibrance of the color kind of plays with the toner. You can take this in any direction. There's a lot of things you can do. What I like to do is be a little less illustrative and maybe go a little more painterly. I have an example up there of something I've worked on that I was inspired by Corey's video on the de Kooning paintings, and I started playing with firm brush strokes, and maybe if I worked on this a little more, I would start putting elements like that and take this to a whole different area, a little more edgy, which I would like to do. But for our purposes, I think we did well. I hope you all really enjoyed learning about Xerox image transfer techniques and a little bit about Club 57 and what it was like in downtown New York City in the 1970s and 1980s. If you have any questions on what you've seen, leave them in the comments section. I had a blast guest hosting. Be sure to hit the subscribe button to see more videos from the Museum of Modern Art, and thanks for watching.